Thank you. Mark, did I overstate how important tourism is in Mesa, Arizona?
No, you didn't. It's so important, and I think we've proven as a state and as a community over the past decade or so that it's these imported visitor dollars that help these budgets be sustainable. They aren't sustainable without these imported visitor dollars, but it is great, and we're thrilled to now have the Oakland A's and have the two teams create that compression for us during spring training. And March is always excellent.
Yeah,
and you're a great singer, by the way.
Oh,
I thought I'd tell you that.
Singing is kind of a strong word to use for what I just did, but thank you very much. So back to spring training, we keep setting records, don't we, in terms of attendance and economic impact? I know that the Cubs, they just sell out every game, every seat. The A's are thrilled they have a huge improvement in their attendance versus their previous ballpark.
Yeah, I don't need to tell you that the Cubs seem to break all kinds of records each and every game, or each and every season. And having, like as I mentioned, having the Oakland A's there, creating that compression in our industry to create more occupancy in our hotels and more purchases in the hotels and out in the restaurants, it means all the difference in the world. We don't have the numbers, obviously, yet for 2016. We know that in 2014, we were at $600 million in economic impact valley-wide as a result of the Cactus League.
Well, it seems like sports tourism in particular is a big part of the Valley economy. I mean, we've got Glendale and Phoenix that occasionally will host big Super Bowl type events, and that obviously helps us even in Mesa. So sports tourism seems like kind of a nice niche for our area. What other ideas, or have you thought more about what we can do to maybe milk that sports tourism?
I have, as a matter of fact.
Tell us about that.
Well, what's so great about, you talk about sports tourism, and the first thing that most people think about are the Super Bowls or the MLB All-Star, NBA All-Star, the Final Fours, the WrestleMania, some of these bigger mega events that are sexy. But the fact of the matter is, it's these youth and amateur sports events, whether it's soccer or lacrosse or rugby, field hockey, basketball, you name it, you name the sport. It's one of the only recession-proof markets that's out there. Because even when times are tough, families will forego their family vacation at, say, the beach, but they're not going to forego the opportunity for John or Jane to be seen by some college coach at a showcase tournament. So it is really important, and it helps with a lot of the hotels that don't normally perhaps get the love during the week in terms of the corporate or association business, in terms of meetings, and they're really helped with the weekend business from the families weekend after weekend all throughout the year. And so we're trying to meet that need here in Mesa. We've developed a pretty good reputation as a smaller youth and amateur sports destination. We do a fantastic job with aquatic sports. We have two of the best swimming pools in the entire West Coast, and we're hosting a lot of events, as you all hear. Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte and others are coming to Mesa each and every year. That's because of the great facilities that we have in terms of aquatics. Longbow Golf Club, and I know Bob's in the room here, they probably do more junior and amateur golf tournaments than any other course in the state, so that brings in a lot of business, a lot of visitors. And then, of course, baseball is our bread and butter, has been for a long time, will continue to be so with our two facilities and the practice facilities and Gene Autry. But what we can't do at the moment is we can't book these larger field sports or larger indoor sports. So what we brought to the table, and the proposal that's on the table, is a youth and amateur sports complex that would include 24 new fields, 18 of which would be natural grass, the 6 others would be artificial surface. On that same footprint would be a 110,000 square foot field house to go after all those indoor sports that we can't currently pursue because we don't have the requisite space. Our convention center, as terrific as it is, the largest space isn't just large enough to accommodate some of these larger basketball and volleyball tournaments. And to put it into perspective, it would allow us now to go after basketball tournaments that have 12 to 15 consecutive courts, double that for volleyball. We could go after judo and taekwondo and wrestling and weightlifting events that we can't currently pursue.
Now, Mark, I think we've been showing some slides, some artist renderings of the project that you're talking about. And just so people in Mesa, maybe they might be wondering, where in the world are you going to build this thing? This looks huge. Are we going to tear something down? And where where is the location proposed to be for this facility?
It's essentially the 202 in Brown, just adjacent to the Multi-Gen Center, if you're familiar with that, just to the south and the east of Red Mountain High School, and real close to an existing sports complex called the Red Mountain Soccer Complex, just east of it.
Okay, now, and this is on property that I think it is currently vacant. It's desert property.
That's correct.
And it was, the city of Mesa acquired this property from the federal government from, I think, the Bureau of Reclamation?
Bureau of Land Management.
Bureau of
BLM.
Land Management. And tell us why this is such an ideal location. Are there, what would we be doing instead of this project on that property?
Well, there's a myriad of reasons. One, as you mentioned, because this piece of land was brought to us by the BLM, there's only so many uses that can be put there, and it only really works for projects like this. The other reason is we wanted to put this facility as far east in Mesa as we possibly could, so that we almost guarantee that the hotel consumption and other visitor activity and purchases are occurring in Mesa. And finally, it's because of the Red Mountain Soccer Complex and the Quail Run that already exists. It's sort of a known commodity in the local youth and amateur sports scene, so people know where it is. It's got great freeway access. And then, of course, you know, we're the only city in all of Arizona that has 2 commercial airports within 15, 20 minutes either direction of the downtown core. In this case, you have Sky Harbor, which would bring visitors in, but you also have Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport, which would prove over time to be just a fantastic asset in terms of accessibility for a lot of the folks that will be coming out of the Midwest in particular.
Well, I think the location is one of the reasons I find this idea really attractive. I think it's really got legs because, as you indicate, given the strings that are attached to the property that when it came to the city of Mesa, this can't be houses, it can't be strip malls. I mean, it has to be used for recreation purposes. It has to be used for parks.
Precisely.
And a light bulb on this really went off for me when you were talking about the recession-proof sports tourism. You're right. I think a lot of us can relate to that. Even if you're struggling financially, if Johnny has a soccer tournament, we're going to load up the car and we're going to go to Johnny's soccer tournament because that's kind of an affordable way and it's a meaningful thing for the family to do. So it makes a lot of sense.
It does, and it fits right in with who we are as a community. We're really known as a family-friendly destination. So when you're talking about building the type of infrastructure and product development that makes sense for your community, you always want to maintain some brand relevancy. This is the perfect project like that. So how we got here, Mayor, is, you know, when I arrived about 4 years ago with Visit Mesa, you know, as any prudent CEO in this business would do, I did a SWOT analysis to determine, you know, what can we do to bring more visitors and their dollars into Mesa? How can we drive incremental tax growth? But then you also have to look at your competitive set, not just nationally, regionally, but also locally. And if you look at Phoenix, they have a 1 million square foot convention center that we don't have, and we're not likely to build one soon. We don't have the dozens and dozens of 4- and 5-star resort product that each have 500 to 1,000 hotel rooms with 200,000 square feet of meeting space each. And how do you elevate the brand in the process when you have competitors like Glendale that have the Coyotes and they have the Cardinals and they're broadcasting their games to the world and their city each and every week, and we don't have a 60,000 student campus like Tempe has in ASU, which, oh, by the way, is in a Power 5 conference, and they're broadcasting their games in all kinds of sports. So, you know, how do you do this while at the same time maintaining some relevancy and consistency with who you are? And it's really the project like this just makes a whole lot of sense, and it comes with some great impacts, which I know we haven't really gotten into yet.
Right, and so I think where you're going with this is really there's a multitude of reasons to like this. There's not a lot of other things we could do with this property. It scratches the itch that Mesa has for youth sports. I can tell you as mayor, my inbox, my email is full of folks in Mesa that are upset because we don't have more fields, particularly more lighted fields for their youth sports teams to practice on and to have games on. We need more of those just for our own parks and rec purposes. But then, as you indicate, from an economic point of view, in terms of creating sales tax, creating a destination for people to come to, this could be a real sales tax generator. I know you've done some, you've had some economists look at this. Tell us what some of the numbers are for the projected financial impact.
Yeah, we first did a feasibility study, which is how we came with the design elements and what it looks like today. And that came through surveys of 400 plus sports events rights holders. But then we wanted to make sure that we vetted those numbers. So then we hired Elliott, Pollock and Company to vet those numbers. And in that handout you have in front of you, it shows that you'd be bringing in, if booked at full capacity, 400,000 new visitors to Mesa in a given year, $365 million each year in economic activity. We at Visit Mesa don't typically like to talk about economic impact because that sort of involves inducements and multipliers. We rather like to talk about the direct visitor expenditures. And in this case, if booked at full capacity, it'd be $183 million each year in direct visitor expenditures. Okay. And then of course, if you baseline it, even in a worst case scenario, if you're booking at, let's say, 50% of the potential pipeline of business, you're still seeing that the coffers, the money, the sales tax revenue that would reach the city of Mesa's coffers would still net you in the black even after annual O&M costs.
So for us to reap the benefits of all these tourists coming to Mesa with their kids to attend soccer tournaments, it seems like we would need additional hotels.
That'd be terrific. I mean, another reason why this works so well is because most of the people that come in for events like this are staying in the type of hotel product that we already have. But certainly, we could use some more hotel product to support this, and we think that it would be a catalyst for that type of development, and not just hotels, but restaurants and other retail, especially in the northeast region of Mesa. And through the economic impact analysis that Pollock did, they did interview some hoteliers who indicated sincere interest in building not just one, but perhaps two hotels right along with the construction of this project. So there is definitely interest there, and I could see once other hotel groups started to see the demand that's being generated there, that you'll see some more hotel development and retail development to go along with it.
Well, that's great. It's a great idea, and I know in order for this to happen, obviously this what the proposal is, and I think the only way this can happen is with the city's involvement, because it's city property, and there's, like I say, some federal restrictions on who can use the property and what for. So the ball, I think, is now in the city of Mesa's court to work on this idea and to figure out how we're going to make it happen. So I think that this is probably a nice way to introduce it to the community. If this is an idea that you think has some traction and that you'd like to see the city get more involved in, this will be the subject of some city council discussions over the next couple of months, potentially going to the voters for approval. Is this something that we want to spend public money on and create this attraction for tourism to come to our community, similar to what we've done with the spring training ballparks? It gets a little hot in Arizona during the summertime. Spring training, I love it, but we only get the full economic benefit for a short amount of time.
6 weeks.
Would that be true of this facility as well?
This would be a year-round facility. So for the outdoor sports, naturally, it gets hot here, so you would see that activity pretty much occurring September through June. But then again, you have this fantastic indoor facility where you'd be able to bring in events during those summer months. And frankly, in the soccer community, they're playing year-round. It really doesn't matter. They're playing at night or early mornings. And to have the lights there is critical because you could book some of these events even in July, and they would program it for a 7 a.m. game, 9 a.m. game, shut it down, and then bring the events back in the evening. One of the questions we often get is, I've heard about this, but it sounds like it's really only for out-of-town folks that are going to get to use this. And that's just not true. In fact, the majority of the use will actually be done from locals. Not only with the field house in the summer months, be great programming for folks that live here locally, but all throughout the year, even the fields, many of the tournaments that would occur on these fields, the local clubs here in Mesa and throughout the valley would be playing in many of those tournaments. Plus, most of the tournaments are happening Thursday through Sunday or Friday through Sunday, which means those fields are available Sunday night through Thursday each and every week. So a lot of the practices with the local clubs and leagues would have access to those fields to practice on them every day. And then, of course, you have the facility, the indoor facility. You could do yoga classes, dance classes. There's all types of activity you could program in that facility year-round.
That's great. I did get a question here on crowd mics asking about the timing. Tim is asking, when would the proposed project be completed? Thoughts on that? I guess it's somewhat subject to the political process and finding the funding for it. Is that right?
I think the idea would be to hopefully have the council vote in favor of referring it to the ballot for this November. And if we are successful in November, you'd probably begin construction probably in summer of 2017 with the project ready for market sometime in mid to late 2019.
Well, that's great. Mark, you're doing a great job. Tourism, like I say, ladies and gentlemen, whether you know it or not, a big amount of the revenue that the city of Mesa uses to buy fire trucks and pay police officers is coming. It's other people's money. We attract people to Mesa and we grab them, turn them upside down and shake as much money out of them as we can. And that's the great job that Mark is doing for us. Mark, just in closing, I got to tell you, I've enjoyed the festivals in downtown Mesa. I particularly got a kick out of Merry Main Street this past December.
Great.
Have you seen a bump in you think having an attractive downtown has also helped to attract people to downtown Mesa?
It always is, and I'm a firm believer, and I've told you this, that the heartbeat of any city is the downtown. So it's so much in favor of all the great work that you're doing and council's doing to create that type of dynamic and vibrant downtown core. Merry Main Street was terrific, and I think the folks in our visitor center will tell you that traffic has increased with some of these new developments. So yeah, we are seeing it.
That's great. Mark, here's the exciting thing for you. I've been a guest on this show before, and the only reason I come back is because there's a wonderful gift attached to being the marquee guest on this show. It's a $100, Mark, $100 detail gift card from Cobblestone Auto Spa. I am a big fan of Cobblestone Auto Spa. Yeah. So,
that's wonderful.
You've got no excuse for not having a sparkling clean car for the next several months. So congratulations. And thanks again. In all sincerity, Mark does a great job. We're lucky to have Mark making Mesa so attractive to our out-of-town guests. So thank you for the great job. And we look forward to the discussion and hopefully for this project moving forward and becoming a reality. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you.